Alright, there we go. Very first book, A Message in a Bottle. Make sure I turn my sound down a little bit. There we go. So the very first book is called A Message in a Bottle. This is the book that I read last stream, and the reason I have not been streaming lately, he has an orange peel for some reason. Just a minute. First book in the series is A Message in a Bottle. That's what I did last stream. The reason I wasn't streaming, I haven't been streaming lately, he's jumping up at me. Go back down. Down. The reason I haven't been streaming lately is because I've been on vacation. I can't grab this toy. I've been on vacation. I've been to Michigan to visit cousins. And sadly, I haven't really had time to stream there. He loves this one. I sadly was not able to, I didn't have access to Wi-Fi enough or powerful enough Wi-Fi to stream, because I just kept lagging the whole time. And so that wouldn't have been fun for you guys. Yeah, I'm lagging a lot. Sorry about that. I did drop my frames. I'm dropping frames. I did lower them. The thing to get better. I don't know why. Okay. So the very first book on this list is A Message in a Bottle, and this was written with one of my best friends. The table of contents, it's part 1, part 2, and I went ahead and did both parts last week. Well, I'm going to do a quick review, not last week, my mistake. I did last stream, I read this book. I'm going to do a quick review, and then we're going to go straight into book 2. So basically what's happening, Into the Woodlands, and the very first part of this book, what happens is they're going on a trail ride. It's just an average day for them. They're 3 best friends going on a trail ride. Doesn't give you a place, doesn't really give you anywhere except the forest. It's a very general location, and they find a tree, and this tree has a glowing heart. And once they reach it and touch it, it falls out and breaks into several pieces. And when it does break into several pieces, then they get 3 necklaces, which are very important. These 3 necklaces allow them to travel. It allows them to stay alive. It keeps them safe. They're immortal in past and future. And that's what my mind was thinking. I go in a little bit more in depth on what exactly they do. I'll go a little bit more in depth on explaining the next book on the 3rd stream. And basically what happens is they get transported into the time of baby Jesus. And when baby Jesus is born, that's in Jerusalem, and shoot, I don't remember the time exactly. But it was a while, it was a long time ago. It was the very first AC Aftercry. Wait. It's when before Christ ended. That's when it ended. And these 3 girls, they got sent back in time, and they were sent back in time to warn Mary and Joseph that King Herod was trying to kill baby Jesus. And they warned them, and that's when they immediately got back into their present time. They were just transported back to the tree. It was like no time had passed at all. Basically, magic treehouse type thing, you know? I thought that was a pretty neat way to put it. This next book, that's where it ended, and it said the end, or is it? And that's when the second book, The Messenger, comes into play. And that's the book we are going to be reading today. The Messenger. And this one is strictly written by me, but I did ask my friends if they wanted to still be in it, and they said yes, of course. Pardon me. And the very first chapter, I don't have a prologue for the second book. I may insert one if y'all enjoy it enough, but this is the very first book. Sorry, not the very first book. It's the second book in this series, and it's the first book that is middle age. This is when I'm coming out of my childhood phase, and I've learned a little bit more about writing, and basically it's to show, hey, I've learned in this first book, I've learned from all my mistakes in the first book, to go to the second book, learn as much as I could in the second book. He's right there, by the way. I'm just learning as much as I can in the second book so that I can go into the third book and be better and better and better, and so on and so on and so on. And this second book is when I'm just a little bit older. It's when I'm just a little bit older, and it shows that I've learned. It shows what I'm learning. It shows I've learned a lot. And it'll slowly lead up to the third book, which y'all are not going to be happy with. Just a heads up, it's a cliffhanger. And then it'll go into the fourth book, which I'm actually still writing, so that one will be a work in progress with you guys. I'm going to be streaming a chapter each, or chapter to 2 chapters, whichever y'all want. Because there's only about 4 chapters written, I believe, and it's slowly working. I'm slowly working on it. It's a lot of fun to write, but I hate that I'm hurting my characters. I'm hurting my babies, you know? So this one is called The Encounter, the very first chapter. And if y'all want, I can break this up. If you want me to stop it at one point and continue it next time, just go ahead and tell me in chat, and I will do that. The Encounter. On one bright sunny day, Cassidy looked out over the waves and saw a small old-fashioned boat with a figure in its bow, paddling with all its strength. Quickly, she took off her apron and hat and swam out with a rope in hand. She tied the rope to the boat and swam back to shore, letting the rope unravel as she went. "Hang on," she called. "I'll pull you to shore." Keep in mind, this is a lot older. As soon as she pulled it up, she tied the rope securely and rushed to the man. "Are you okay?" she asked hurriedly. "Are you hurt, sick? Do you need food, drink?" He suddenly fainted, and Cassidy carried him up to the house. Her friends Sarah and Emily were coming over for lunch, and she needed their help. A couple hours later, Cassidy heard the door open and 2 friendly voices call out, "We're here and hungry. What's for lunch?" Laughing, she said, "Come in, y'all two, and mind your jokes, because I need your help." "What's up?" Emily asked hurriedly. "And who's that?" said Sarah, astounded by the man. "I don't know," Cassidy stated. "I saw him in a boat paddling furiously like someone was chasing him." At that second, the man awoke, and sitting upright, he quickly said, "Please help me. I'm trying to find 3 girls who have 6 magical items, for I must find them." We looked at each other in disbelief. "I think we can help better than anyone else because, you see, we are who you're looking for." The man looked at all of us. "Praise the Lord, I found you at last," he said, relieved. Suddenly, without warning, he grabbed our hands, saying, "Come quickly, we're not safe here." He saw our puzzled expressions. "Hi. Hi, baby." Looks like the puppy cam's looking at me now. There's the puppy cam. He grabbed our hands, saying, "Come quickly, we're not safe here." He saw our puzzled expressions. The Antichrist men followed me here to destroy you, but I have managed to throw them off track a little. You see, I'm from the future." We quickly followed him to the boat, more confused than ever, but decided to keep our questions to ourselves. As soon as we hopped into the boat, we heard a whinny coming from behind. We spun around and saw our horses and the cobalt stallion galloping towards us with a determined look in their eyes. As the boat took off, an amazing thing happened. The horses lifted into the air with wings on their back as graceful as eagles. The man quickly lassoed them and tying them to the front of the boat, yelled, "This," and tied them to the front of the boat. "This is awesome," Emily said, awestruck. "Look at Cottontail, Ruby, Ebony, and Amber fly." The man quickly yelled, "Quick, get down!" And all of a sudden, an eerie blue light zipped past overhead, just singeing our hair and slicing clean through the ropes. "That was a blue bullet," said the man. "They sent it as a warning to surrender or die." "What?" we screamed. "What is going on here?" Emily said. "And I want the entire truth." The man sighed and said, "Fine. When we get to a safe place, I'll tell you everything. I promise." Emily then quickly crouched down and, leaping into the air, she snatched the 4 ropes and told everyone to grab them. "Grab your horse's rope and shimmy up as quickly as possible." Turning to the man, Cassidy told him, "You take Cottontail. She's real gentle. I'll take Ebony," she said to Emily. As soon as they got up onto their horses, they helped the man get on Cottontail. While they were flying away, he began telling them the whole story. "Buddy, what are you doing? Prince Max! Prince Max! Come here! Come here! Come here! If you need to potty, you have a pee pad over here. Come here. Just a minute, guys. It's his nap time, so I was just letting him run around a bit before putting him to bed. But yeah, there's the puppy cam. There's the puppy cam. He really wants my purse, or he just wants out? No, sir. I can't tell. There you go. I should keep him a while. Okay, where was I? She said to Emily. "I'll take Ebony," she said to Emily. As soon as they got up onto their horses, they helped the man get on Cottontail. While they were flying away, he began telling him the whole story. "One day, a couple weeks ago, I was blinded by an immense ray of light, and I heard a voice call out to me, 'Take off your shoes, for where you are standing on is holy ground.' I fell to my knees when I heard the voice, realizing it was none other than Jesus Christ himself. 'Do not be afraid,' he said, 'for I have an assignment for you. You must find 3 girls with 6 magical items and take them to the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem. But your trip will be strenuous, and the Antichrist men will follow you, and the girls are in the past. If you ask the very first person you meet, you will find them. Now go forth, I will be with you always.'" Welcome, Klingon. Welcome to the stream. We're just reading. Here, I'll go ahead and explain it for you. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm reading books, and these are stories that I've written myself. And in these books, I've written, in the very first book, which is the last stream I was in, basically, it's the most childish way I could write. And it was also really a while back. It was a lot while back. A long while back, not a lot while back. It was a long while back when I was writing this, and I wrote it in the most childish way, because what I'm doing with this book series is I'm writing it childish, and then I'm slowly making my writing seem older and older and older. And so in the first book, the very first thing they did was they were on a trail ride. It didn't give you a place or anything. It was just general. They were riding through a forest, and they came across this tree that had a glowing heart. And this glowing heart broke into 6 pieces, and 6 became halters and lead ropes, and 3 became halters and lead ropes, and 3 became necklaces. So 3 were for horses, and 3 were for them. And so they were suddenly sent back in time once they read this note from the 3 wise men. And the three wise men basically told them, you guys, you have to warn baby Jesus, because King Herod's gonna kill him. And so they were sent back in time. They were actually able to warn Mary and Joseph, and then suddenly they were sent back home. Nothing had changed. It was like Magic Treehouse. They got back home and no time had passed. And basically that's where that story ended, and it ended with the end, or is it? And so now we're on The Messenger, which is the second in the series. I'm just now reading the first chapter, so unfortunately you have missed it. But don't worry, I am going to read it twice all the way through. So this book is about, it's quite a few chapters. So I'm reading it through all the way once, and then I'm going to read it through twice. And then if we get the chance, I'm going to read it through all the way 3 times. And that'll basically, hopefully y'all will actually be able to understand the story, and y'all will all hear it. So basically, I'm going to read my book 3 times all the way through. I'm going to explain, I'm going to go back and explain the first book each time I start a read through. And yeah, so right now we're in the middle of the first chapter, so don't worry, you did not miss much. That's when I set sail and find you all, he said wearily. It is really loud? Okay. How is that? Is that better? Is that better? Is that any better? The music? Okay. So what we got to just now is Cassidy, Sarah, and Emily. They're being chased by this odd boat. And there was a man that came to find them, and they don't really know what's going on. And so this man that came to find them, the girls with the 6 magical items, they're just now flying away on their horses who just suddenly gained wings. And so they are super confused. And basically this man is currently telling them why he found them. And so I'm going to start over with what he says, and then I'm going to continue the book. One day, a couple weeks ago, I was blinded by an immense ray of light, and I heard a voice call out to me, "Take off your shoes, for where you are standing on is holy ground." I fell on my knees when I heard the voice, realizing it was none other than Jesus Christ himself. "Do not be afraid," he said, "for I have an assignment for you. You must find 3 girls with 6 magical items and take them to the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem. But your trip will be very strenuous. The Antichrist men will follow you, and the girls are in the past. If you ask the very first person you meet, you will find them. Now go forth. I will always be with you." "That's when I set sail and found you all," he said wearily. "We were thinking about what the man just said when the man told us we should land. The horses are getting pretty tired, and their wings are probably aching." "There are some islands up ahead we can land on," Cassidy replied. As soon as we landed, the man took out a small object we'd never seen before. "It's called a trapped bombardo-zetanoid." "What's that?" Emily asked. "It's an electronic fire maker. It spits out twigs to create a fire," he said. "That's amazing," I said, astonished. Look, Emily sputtered. Here. Her voice trailed off. We looked over the water and our hearts sank. There on the horizon were 3 boats, but they're flying, we gasped. "I had forgotten they could fly," the man said, trembling in fear. "They must have tracked us down," Emily whispered. I messed that up. "They must have tracked us down," Emily whispered. Enraged, the man walked over to the horses, and looking at their ropes, he ripped off a small black object off of Ebony's and smashed it with his fist. He moaned. "I should have known. Why didn't I be more careful? I should have known." He shook his head and broke down sobbing. "How could I let this happen?" he wailed. We looked on, stunned and helpless, as the boats drew closer. "Wait, look, they're not the same. See, the other ones only had men. This one has a woman and children as well," Cassidy said. Did you say women and children?" the man said, wide-eyed with fear. He clasped his hands together and cried out to his wife and children, "Are you all right?" His voice bounced off the mountains, making it nearly impossible to tell where we were, but the people pounced on our location. As the boat drew closer, we leaped onto our horses and they immediately bolted into the sky. The chase was on. We were flying as quickly as possible, but they were faster. The woman was turning paler and paler as they drew closer, and soon they were close enough for... Gosh dang it, I stuttered. And soon they were close enough for us to see their laser bombs around their hands. "There they are!" the captain shouted. "They're off the starboard bow!" They sped up after us, but amazingly they kept their distance. "It's a trap!" the man moaned. "They're herding us towards the sun, so we'll fly into the invisible fence." "How will we trick them?" Emily asked, scared. "Barrel racing," Cassidy replied. When she saw our confused faces, she darted toward the nearest island with us in hot pursuit. When we reached the center of the island, the boat was far behind us. She spread out a plan that just might work. "First we go around a mountain together. Then you, Sarah, will drop off. Then we will go around the next mountain, and Emily will drop off. Then on the last, the man will drop off. And no arguing," she snapped when we started to protest. "I'll try to lose them and then drop off in the valley." Where will we meet each other since we'll be separated?" asked Emily. Cassidy smiled sadly. "That, I'm afraid I can't answer. But try to find your way to the valley on the opposite side of the mountain I go around." Quickly she straightened. "Sarah, do you have your crochet kin and yarn? Emily, Emily, do you have your artistic ability ready?" Satisfied by her friend's nods, she took out her duct tape. "Good, I have my duct tape. Let's get down to business." They worked through the night trying to create their doubles. "Girls," Sarah said, "I think we should cut our hair off." Emily looked up alarmed. "What do you mean?" "I mean what I said. We should cut our hair off." Cassidy spoke up. "She has a point. I mean, the only way our doubles will look real if their hair is right. Besides, would you rather have a shorn head or be dead?" Emily gulped. Okay, you win. But what about Mr. You-Know-Who?" We don't need to. Look, this bark is exactly the right color. Now, Sarah, are you finished with the dresses? Good. Let's go slip them on right quick and make Ebony look a little brown so that the man will blend in." A couple minutes later, after the girls were done changing Ebony's color, the man woke. And thinking the dolls were them, he started talking to them. "Why are you still up? You should be in bed." Then he heard twitters of laughter and turned to see the three girls with clothes the color of their horses' manes and tails, and burst out laughing as well. "You definitely had me fooled a moment there." They fell silent as they heard the captain shout, "Over there! I see dying coals! They must be asleep!" Quickly and quietly, we put the dolls on the horses' backs, and Cassidy taped them into position. We strapped ourselves to our horses' bellies and gave the signal to lift off. Silently they lifted off, and the captain never saw them fly away. Once they reached the first mountain, they heard a shout. "There they are! Over there, by that hill!" They had pushed their horses to the limit when Cassidy gave Sarah the signal. Sarah took a deep breath and yanked the cord that was holding her. Though as she fell, she pushed the thick cushion out in front of her. The landing jarred her whole body. Then she saw a cave up ahead of her, but before she reached it, she passed out. On the second hill, Cassidy gave the signal and Emily yanked the cord, but she'd forgotten the pillow at the camp. She ended up breaking both of her legs and one of her arms, tangling up in several vines above a rushing river filled with rocks. She swallowed her panic and started to try climbing the vines back up, but almost screamed when a jolt of pain rushed through her body. Fighting back the searing pain in her arms, she began to rise. When she reached a fine thick branch, she collapsed, whimpering in pain. On the final man, the man dropped off at Cassidy's signal and watched her go away with the other horses and their fake riders. He wished he could take her position, but she wanted him safe. Besides, he saw Emily turn white with pain as soon as she hit that tree. She needed his help, and Sarah never whistled to signal she was all right. With a sigh, he turned and started down the opposite side of the mountain, towards Emily's and Sarah's drop-off sites. Cassidy felt Cottontail tiring quickly, and she yanked her cord, not realizing it was snowing. As she looked around, she turned pale and frightened when she saw she was on the mountain peak. Shivering, she started trudging down the mountain when all of a sudden the earth tilted crazily underneath her. She yelped when she spotted the 25-foot... messing up. I'm sorry. Let me start that over. I'm talking too fast. Shivering, she started trudging down the mountain when all of a sudden the earth tilted crazily under her. She yelped when she spotted the 25-foot tall snowbank wash down towards her. She tried to run, but the thick snow slowed her down. She screamed as the snow covered her like cold death sweeps over the weak. That is the second chapter. Now it's to the second chapter of the book. How are you enjoying it so far? I just need to check something out right quick and I'll keep reading. So this is going to be, I read through 2 chapters just now by accident. I meant to stop at every chapter. But this is the second chapter, or third chapter that I'm on currently. I'm going to be reading next. And I hope y'all like it. This is called Forces Not to be Reckoned with. Forces Not to be Reckoned with. It was twilight when Sarah woke on a hard wooden floor and started to stretch when she screeched in pain. A bolt of electricity bolted through her body, causing her to lose consciousness once more. It was morning when she woke up. She turned 4 shades whiter than ever before. Her hands and legs were tied with lasers so that she could not move. Just then a man walked into the room. "Hey, Captain," he shouted. "The girl is awake." The captain walked in. "Finally," he said. "Now, young lady, why don't you come with me?" Sarah glared at him with fire in her eyes. "Whatever. Why should I trust you?" The captain smiled. "Because if you want to live, you'll tell me everything about where your friends are on your quest." Sarah froze, ignoring the bolts of electricity rushing through her body as the burly man yanked her forward. "Never, never, ever, ever," she screamed. "You brutes, I'll never answer to you at all." The captain smirked. "I was hoping you'd say that," he said nastily. "You've given me a wonderful opportunity to use a threat I've always wanted to use." The 4 people I saw earlier that the man identified as his wife and children were shoved forward. "If you don't tell me where they are, I will shoot these people down one by one. And I'll start with this youngster over here," he said, gesturing towards the youngest. "You have 10 seconds to tell us, or she dies. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2... Wait! I screamed. "I'll do it!" sighed mournfully. "Please, just don't hurt them. You or your men." The captain smiled in understanding satisfaction. "Agreed," he says. "As long as you tell me all you know, they will stay in your sight alive." Sarah trembled with fear and relief. "I best start from the beginning then, shan't I?" she said. "Yes, you better," the captain said triumphantly. Emily woke up realizing the man that they saved was calling her. "Emily," he cried. "It's me, the man you risked your life for. Please, answer me." "Help! I'm stuck in this tree," Emily managed to squeak. The man rushed towards her. "Are you able to move at all?" the man asked worriedly. "I'm sorry," she called out trembling. "I broke my legs, one of my arms, when I fell." The man thought hard. "Hold on, I'll get some help." But Emily, realizing his attention, snapped, "Don't even think about it. If you make a ladder, I'll slide down and we'll make some splints." The man sighed. "I don't know how to make a ladder, much less a splint." Emily tried to suppress a groan. Oh, oh, okay. I'm coming down. She tried to sit up but fell down. She fell back down, nearly screaming with pain. Oh, hold on! I'm coming up to get you, the man called. He quickly skimmed up the tree and brought her down. While she was laying there, the man told her his name. My name's Dakota, and I'm genuinely sorry I put you in all this danger. Emily smiled sweetly. It wasn't your fault, she said kindly. And Sarah and Cassidy would never blame you neither. Oh, but they should, the man broke down weeping. If only I could have reached Sarah in time before they took her, he said mournfully. Emily bolted upright. What? She shrieked. How? Why? The man cried harder. She was under a cave and must have passed out. She never whistled to tell us she was all right. I was walking up to your drop-off site when I noticed a big ship hovering over Sarah's. I heard the captain shout they have her, and we'll get her to tell them everything. Otherwise, my family will be killed. Cassidy was numb with cold when she awoke. She heard several voices above her. She remembered the MacGyver movie where he was trapped in the snow. He spit to see what position he was in. When she spit, she realized she was lying on her belly. She struggled to turn, but she couldn't. All she could do was cry out for help. When she screamed, she heard the voices stop. She cried out again and heard a shout and recognized Sarah's voice. She shrieked, "Over here! Help! Please!" She heard the voices getting louder, and soon she felt all the weight of the snow lift off her chest. She saw Sarah's worried face and managed a stiff smile before slipping into unconsciousness once more. She awoke to darkness, feeling frigid. She looked around confused for a second, but sat bolt upright when she remembered. Sarah! Where are you? Sarah rushed forward. It's okay. Everything's gonna be fine. But Cassidy knew something was wrong. What's up? Sarah, come on, spill it. Sarah broke down sobbing. It's my entire fault. I passed out before reaching the cave. They caught me. I brought you here because they threatened me. Her voice trailed off. Cassie stared at her in bewilderment. Her loving, reliable, caring, and courageous friend was acting helpless. What did they threaten you about? She said in a soothing manner. Sarah moved out of Cassie's line of vision. Cassidy was unprepared for the sight to meet her eyes. There on the floor lay a 6-year-old girl. Cassidy felt dizzy. Her mind reeled. But, why? But, why? What happened? Cassie screamed. Sarah gasped, trying to control her breathtaking sobs. When they didn't find you in the valley, he said I was leading them on a wild goose chase. They brought the girl. Her weeping was tormenting Cassidy. She spoke up. It's okay. You don't have to tell me. Sarah straightened up and took a deep breath. No. You have to hear it. No. Soon after they stabbed her, I looked at the sky and noticed our horses circling a mountain peak and realized you probably never made it to the valley. And I told the captain what I thought. He took it into consideration and ordered his men to go up. He said some snow had fallen, covering the slope. He had just stepped onto the snow-covered ground when I heard you scream. I rushed forward to the captain, with the captain behind me. I called out again and again, hoping you'd hear me. And that's when you dug me out when you dug out and found me. Cassidy finished. But you never answered me. Sarah, where are we? Sarah looked at her mournfully, and Cassidy realized. We're on the ship? She said in a small voice. Sarah looked at her with tears spilling down her cheeks. Yes. And the thought that I brought my friends into danger is too great to bear. Emily and Dakota were walking down the hill when Emily heard a whinny. She turned her head and saw Ruby trotting towards her, with her mane billowing around her. Her fake rider was hanging loosely around her withers. Dakota pulled the doll off Ruby's back and gently set Emily astride. He took the hair off the doll and placed it on her head, but while he was doing so, she heard a long, loud shriek. She never mentioned it, but she knew the sound. It was the cry of a child. They're expecting a girl with a short head and bald man, not the other way around. Emily nodded and began to stick her hair on with some tree step. How do I look? She asked timidly. You look like a queen upon thy fine steed, Dakota said with a fake British accent. Madame, though thou art the first... Gosh dang it! Madame, thou indeed art the fairest in the land. If thou art looking for a prince, thy fair maiden, I would be honored to be thy king. Emily giggled. Who art thou to come without my summons? Dakota smiled. Thy tight guard around thy kingdom could not keep me away from thee. They broke down laughing. I never had so much fun acting as I have now, she managed to gasp before bursting out laughing again. Yes, but we should be quiet for the remainder of the trip, she sighed. We must keep moving. Here, Ruby will carry both of us to that cave up there. The man trembled. That's where Sarah landed. What if they're lying in wait? Emily gave the same melancholy smile that Cassidy had smiled the night before to Sarah. Gosh dang it. No, that Cassidy... Okay, just a minute. I typed this up wrong. Spelling errors. Emily gave the same melancholy smile that Cassidy had smiled the night before. That, I'm afraid, doesn't matter right now. I'm sorry. I heard the scream of a child and it sounded like they were maybe being tortured or even killed. I'm sorry, but they won't rest till they have me in the grasp. It's not you they want. I know you'll come back to save us, Dakota. How do you know? He asked sadly. Emily hugged him and whispered lovingly in his ear. I know because... I just do. I believe in you. Sarah helped Cassidy up. She knew Cassidy didn't blame her for what happened, but she knew she was guilty just the same. Sarah? Cassidy inquired. What's gonna happen to us? Sarah looked at her feet, ashamed. I don't know, she confessed. When they brought me here, I was unconscious and woke up in some sort of chair that electrocuted me. But I think I heard someone speak of Operation Offering. I think it was something about a murdering act. While Cassidy thought that, she felt a bit lightheaded and saw a rat from the ship's lower ship's quarter hold biting her ankle and turned 5 shades wider than usual. She stumbled and felt dizzy, knowing she was about to faint, but struggled against it. Cassidy! Sarah screamed. Someone help her, please! Sarah tried to help her stand, but wasn't strong enough. Cassidy sank to the floor, barely breathing. Help me! Someone! Anybody, please! Sarah screamed, wanting to help her, but not strong enough to, with her sobs. The captain and his surgeon raced forward. She was shot at, and apparently still in shock when she was hit by that snowbank and was frozen. Or it might have been a mutated rat. Sarah turned white with rage, but tried to calm down, remembering that's what the devil wanted her to do. To lash out at the captain was against God's commandments. That doesn't explain what's wrong with her, Sarah shrieked. Let me finish speaking, young lady, the captain ordered. As I was saying before I was interrupted, she has a sickness called malaria haperilia sleepiest. I made up the names, by the way. It's still childish. I was making up names. That's not a real disease. I'm not gonna scare y'all. That's not a real disease. Do you have anything that could help her? Sarah asked pleadingly. The captain nodded. Yes, but only enough to keep her alive for about 2 hours longer. We must take her to the future where she'll be fully cured. Dakota watched Emily fly off towards the boat when he heard a scream that he recognized as Sarah's. He fought the urge to charge up there and help her and forced himself to run for cover. He suddenly stopped as quickly as he started when he heard a click. The click of a rifle. Emily had heard the scream and was watching from an overhang when she felt a sharp, cold point in their spine. "Get off that horse and come with me and you won't get hurt," the man said gruffly. Emily bowed her head in defeat. When the man walked over to yank her down, he saw the splint. "Will you try to fly away when I lead your horse over there?" he asked. When she shook her head, he gave a satisfied grunt. "Good, because your friends are our prisoners, and if you do, we'll kill them both." Emily slowly followed him, defeated. She spotted Dakota in the brush on the way to the boat and smiled at him. When he smiled back, she knew he understood the plan. When she reached the boat, she saw Cassidy lying on the floor, unmoving. "Cassidy!" she shrieked. She looked at the man who nodded his permission. Immediately, she urged Ruby onto the boat. Hurrying towards her was Sarah. "She has a terrible disease," she sobbed. The only future medications can heal her." Emily looked Cassidy over. "Quick, Sarah, lead me to the captain. I know what can keep her alive longer." Sarah nodded and quickly led Emily over. "Sarah, help me down by Cassidy." She was set down. As soon as she was set down, she laid her head on Cassidy's chest and appeared to fall asleep. While she was asleep, they saw a storm brewing. The captain turned white. "Come on, wake her up," the captain urged Sarah, but she shook her head. "She's not asleep. She's begging God to put the sickness on her, so... Sarah choked up and stopped speaking. Then the captain did something that surprised her. He wrapped an arm around her to comfort her? The storm blew harder, but Emily kept praying on. She prayed for 4 days and 4 nights when the sickness came onto her out of Cassidy. She heard Cassidy breathe, and when Cassidy looked over at her, Emily managed a quick, genuine smile as the illness drew her into a fold of darkness. It was terrible seeing Emily take that punishment. She screamed her heart out right there, even though Sarah tried to calm her down. "Please, Cassidy, keep cool. Emily did this for you. Cool it." That's what she would say, wouldn't she? She doesn't want you screaming. She would want you to figure out a plan to help her get to the future hospitals. Cassidy took a deep breath. "What can we do? Where can we go to get into the future?" Sarah pointed to the captain. "He's our ticket to the future. But we need to put these on." She brought out the 6 items she held for safekeeping. "These will help us and our horses stay young and invincible." "Well, not exactly invincible, but we cannot be killed in the future or past with these on." Cassidy looked thoughtful. "So, while we're here we can die, but anywhere in the future or the past we can't?" When Sarah nodded, she quickly put the necklace on. Emily, Sarah, and Cassidy then put When Sarah nodded, she quickly put a necklace on Emily. Sarah and Cassidy then put their own jewels on. The 3 diamonds began to glow magically, and the halters and lead ropes disappeared. Cassidy and Sarah each grabbed one of Emily's hands and held on to each other. They were lifted to the sky by a magical ray of light. "Do not be afraid, for it is I, your Father in heaven," a voice spoke. "Your friend shall not die. She will survive. You mustn't let the captain know anything about this meeting, or he won't let you go." They were set back down and the light disappeared. Emily's eyes fluttered open and she groaned with pain. "Sarah? What happened?" she asked groggily. When her eyesight focused on Cassidy, she squealed with joy and tried to jump into her arms, but lost her balance and toppled over. They laughed as she got up slowly. "Cassidy, you're alive! You made it! It worked!" Cassidy laughed and told her to rest. "You just woke up from a terrible sickness and you need your rest." Dakota walked steadily towards the place when he heard the click, but had to duck for cover when the man walked past leading a horse and rider. He sucked in his breath when he caught sight of Emily. Her head was bowed and she was holding Ruby back. He realized that Ruby was nervous and would bolt any second. "Hang in there, Emily. I'll be back with some help soon." he whispered in a soothing voice that was barely audible. Emily caught sight of him and smiled lightly. He then realized she had meant to be captured. He smiled his crooked smile to assure her he understood, and quietly left the scene. While he charged through the woods, he yanked a circular object out of his pocket. He then pushed the silver button and the hologram appeared. "Why do you call at this hour?" the hooded man asked. "Tell me, do you have the girls in your grasp, or did that captain take them?" Dakota bowed low at the man. "I'm afraid they got swept up by the captain and his crew." The man frowned and gravely replied, "You must save them, or the Antichrist will destroy them. You do know that, don't you?" Dakota nodded. "Good. Then bring them here to Egypt, so that I may protect them with an army." Dakota smiled a crooked smile, but then frowned. "Dakota, what is on your mind? What is on your mind?" No stuffy. Sorry. Dakota answered. "The girl's friend might be dying. And what about my family?" The man peeked out from under his cloak at him with sad eyes. "What did I tell you when you first started out on this mission?" Dakota sighed. "You told me to go forth, that there will be challenges to test me on the way, that I'll have to give up what I love most in the world." The captain nodded. "That's correct. But there's one last thing I need you to do. I need to tell you. I'm sorry. That is correct. But there's one last thing I need to tell you. God will never leave you because you're his strong, loyal son. That's why he chose you to carry this quest. He didn't choose me. He didn't choose your brother or one of your kids. He chose you. You should remember that next time you're troubled or confused." Dakota thought about what the man said about the hologram as the hologram died off. He suddenly heard a loud rustling behind him. He stood in a fighting stance as the rustling grew closer. Suddenly, he was shoved onto Ebony, who flew away quicker than... Gosh dang it. Gosh dang it. I'm like messing up my words. I'm talking too fast. Suddenly, he was shoved onto Ebony, who flew away quicker than he ever thought possible. As he flew up, he looked down and saw what looked like a shimmering angel waving them off into the night. So this next chapter is called Escape. And this is a pretty intense part of the story. They get pretty intense from here on out. And we'll slowly be building the climax to the tippity top point that will happen. You want me to stop here and continue next stream? You want me to continue? Are y'all enjoying it? Do you want me to slow down, speed up in my voice? Because I know I talk really, really fast. Oh. I'm going to try to slow down talking because I know I talk down really fast. I'm just getting too excited. If the music is too loud, if it doesn't fit the scene, if you want me to change it to fit the scene, I will. And yeah, so basically I'm just pausing for a moment. Let's move the puppy cam, shall we? So y'all can actually see the puppy. That out of the way. Can y'all see? Oh, whoops. Can y'all see better now? He's sleeping. Well, I accidentally woke him up, but he was sleeping. Oh shoot, there's a lot of dropped frames. Huh. Alright. So this chapter is called Escape, and it's... Where is it? Okay, it's the, this is actually... I think I messed up. I think this is actually the third, because it would be the fourth otherwise. I think this is actually the third, because I'm looking at the outline, and I think it accidentally miscounted the chapters, so oopsies. I think this is actually the third chapter, and there's 48 pages. We're only on page 21, so this is going to be a little bit. I might have to go get a drink soon, because I accidentally forgot to go grab one. Oopsies! But, I'll stay here for right now. Don't worry, I'm not leaving. I'm gonna read one more chapter, then I'm gonna go grab myself a drink. We'll have a little bit of time to talk about it and everything. We'll have time to talk about the book. If y'all have any ideas for it, if y'all want me to change anything about it, if y'all think that I should edit a part, because there are a few parts that I might go back and edit soon. Not really planning on it, but I might go back and edit it soon. But I have to keep in the voice that it's like I'm just now getting out of the childhood phase, because that's what the book's supposed to be about, basically. Very first book, very childish. Second book, it's coming out of that childish phase. Way more climax, more intensity. Third book, it's going to be more dramatic, more realistic as well. Fourth book, it's like 18 years old. It's basically adult, you're learning, you're professional now, and you're getting it done. And that's basically, you're getting into professionalism. You're not a beginner anymore, you're more advanced. And the fifth book is going to be expert level. And that one, it's already being written, the very first chapters. And I let myself write the very first chapters because of the, basically it wouldn't hurt. It wasn't going to hurt my fourth book. Because the fourth book, it's not going to lead up into that one. This one is a completely different book. They're completely different books separate from each other. You could easily read them out of turn and easily be caught up, and it won't really matter if you read them ahead or not. Out of order or not, I mean. It's one of those nice book series. So it's the Escape. Chapter, Escape. Sarah, Cassidy, and Emily were ushered into a room with several strange-looking chairs. 6 men strapped them down to the chairs despite their protests. "I must speak to the captain immediately, for this cruelty is unnecessary," Sarah shouted. Just then the captain walked in. "Sorry for this inconvenience, but I must pry the rest of the information out of you. You see, I'm the trusted assistant of the Antichrist, and he would love to meet you. The problem is, you must have all your thoughts and memories trained." Emily and Cassidy were turning white with fear, but Sarah was turning red with rage. She heard a neigh outside the porthole window and smirked. She started counting down from 60. 59, 58, 57, 56, 55, 54, 53. The captain stared at her quizzically. "Enough of this foolishness. I said stop. Stop at once, I say," the captain yelled furiously. Emily and Cassidy winked at each other and joined in. 37, 36, 35, 34, 33, 32, 31, 30, 29. The captain closed his eyes for a moment and opened them, and as he shouted for all the crew members to come over to this room immediately with their guns. "Get the rest of the men locked and loaded." "Why, boss? Why do we have to do it this way? Chairs will just take care of them, you know that." Sarah was listening to everything as the men were saying as she counted down. When her friends had joined in, she had been relieved they had all understood that she needed time to think. She kept counting down as she heard some hoofbeats on the floor above the room they were in. She hoped it was the man Cassidy had found. Then he could bring help, and they'd be saved from these wretched men that wanted to kill them before they could finish their quest. I wonder if the man is here, or if that's just one of our horses, she thought while she counted down. Or maybe that's Ruby up there prancing around nervously. Whatever it was, she couldn't decide, but her ears heard and concluded the first choice. For though the men and her friends couldn't, she could hear someone coming up behind her in a crowded school hallway. I'm sorry, I keep messing this up. She heard several footsteps coming down the door behind the captain, but as she stopped to take in a breath, someone reached from behind her and put a razor-sharp knife against the back of her throat that went down to and between her shoulder blades. "It's me," the man signed. "Keep counting down while I free you, and when I cut you loose, don't move your hands or they'll know of the trick." She signed okay back to him. By the way, this is sign language, that's why he's signing. Just to let y'all know. She signed okay back to him, and he cut her loose and went on to help Cassidy. She had to warn Emily not to shriek. She signaled to Cassidy. When Cassidy nodded, she screamed and slumped down in faint. When she opened her eyes a few seconds later, she saw Emily's concerned face, and she shook her head and signed for her not to do what she just did. Emily's face shone with recognition and terror as she felt the man's knife against her back. Then Sarah apologized to the captain for screaming. "I thought I heard a ghost," she said, shuddering for effect. "But I guess it was just the wind." "Yes, it must have," the captain said, narrowing his eyes. He heard a noise on deck and decided to go check it out. "If I get back and the girls are gone, you will be dismissed and will be forced to walk the plank." The men nodded at their captain and stood their guard. Suddenly, an image of an angel appeared in front of them. The angel waved his hand, ushering them to the door. "Leave while you can. Your horses are waiting for you." As Cassidy, Emily, and Sarah charged towards the door, Emily looked back at the angel and whispered her thanks. "Go," the angel repeated. "Go, or you will be trapped with these men. And don't look back. Your friend Dakota is safely up the stairs." Emily leaped onto Ruby. Leaped. It's supposed to be leapt. Gosh, dang it. I'm messing up left and right today. I'm sorry. It's supposed to be leapt, Sarah. Say it right. Emily leapt onto Ruby, and away they flew. "Don't look back!" she shouted. "The angel told me that to not." Blah, 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 blah. Come on, Sarah, get your words back together. "Don't look back!" she shouted. "The angel told me to tell you, don't look back. Please, Dakota. Please, Dakota's fine. So am I. Just don't look back." They flew away from the boat into the night, not knowing what would happen or where they were headed. It was 3 weeks later when they dared to rest. They never dared to look behind them till now. Emily, Sarah, and Cassidy were completely closed on one particular subject. Whenever he spoke about the boat and the captain, or tried to pry out what happened after Emily was caught, they would immediately change the subject to something about the weather or where they were headed. He knew that something had happened back there, but he had no clue what. He caught the girls sneaking away into the night at midnight. He has also seen them standing in a circle, as if in a trance. He never understood why they were hiding something from him. It was like something had happened that was too great to bear, or was a super secret that they couldn't tell to anyone. Or maybe it was both. He couldn't decide because the looks in their eyes were just so mysterious and secretive, and they protected their thoughts. He remembered what had happened on the boat that night. It was a nightmare in the real world. He had walked into the hold that he had heard them counting in, only to find them tied to brainwashing chairs. He immediately took out his knife and started towards Sarah. When he touched her back with the blade, he felt her shudder with fright. He signed on her back to keep counting down without wiggling. She signed the OK signal, and he freed her and moved on to Cassidy, and then Emily. He had a harder time calming Emily down because she had apparently felt the knife on her neck before. He was grateful when Sarah caused that distraction because he was able to whisper to Emily that it was okay. He decided they should be given some time off the subject because of how great the shock was, especially with Sarah. She had told him of his poor daughter and how she had told her to tell him how much she loved him. His eyes began welling up with tears. He had promised himself he wouldn't cry, but this time it was just too much. As the tears began rolling down his cheeks, Sarah slowed down and hugged him. As she released her hold, he saw the same grief reflected in her eyes. He knew what a terrible thing it was watching someone die. Sarah took the lead when she heard Dakota sobbing. She gestured for Cassidy to retake the lead as she slowed Amber down. She knew that he was grieving for his daughter, and she wanted him to know she understood. When he looked at her, it made her want to tell him everything, but she knew she couldn't. Suddenly, out of nowhere came a screech. She screamed in agony as she felt the weight of a lion on her back, and something like sharp daggers digging into her sides. She fell off her horse and felt herself falling. She heard Emily calling to her. She tried to answer, but she couldn't. All she remembered... Sorry, talking too fast again. She tried to answer, but she couldn't. All she remembered as she fell towards the lake was a brief flash of light above her as she hit the surface. Emily was frightened. When she had heard that screech, she knew something was wrong. She felt a wing beating at her back and swerved just in time to see Sarah attacked by a griffin. That thing was huge. It had the wings of a dragon, the body of a lion, and the head of an eagle. It also had a 25-foot-long diamondback snake for its tail. She saw Sarah fall from Amber with streaks of blood on her back. She screamed for Cassidy and Dakota to help as she streamed down after Sarah. It took both Dakota and Cassidy to stop her and hold her back as she watched Sarah hit the water below. Cassidy had heard the screech after Emily had screamed for help. She saw the griffin carry Amber away into the clouds. She called to Dakota to follow her and sped up after Emily. They both grabbed the reins from Emily, and Dakota held Emily down as well so she wouldn't leap down after Sarah as she sank below the surface. Dakota had first forced Ebony into a downward spiral as he sped down to help Cassidy hold on to Emily. That griffin was terribly significant, with hooked claws as long as a largemouth bass. He had seen its shadow when Sarah was comforting him, but he had forgotten to sound the alarm. He spotted a boat on the side of the lake and dropped a piece of paper in its bow. He hoped that a fisherman that owned the boat could save Sarah's life. He and Cassidy drove Emily up towards a cave on the side of the mountain, forcing her to keep moving, though she was begging for them to take her back to the lake. "Please, I'm a good swimmer. I can jump in after her," Emily sobbed. "No," Cassidy said. "There's no way I'm losing you two." Emily broke down crying again. "She's gone. Sarah's gone. It's all my fault." "No, it's not," the man broke in. If it's anyone's fault, it's mine. I never sounded the alarm when I saw the griffin's shadow." Cassidy looked at him with sympathy. "It's okay. She doesn't blame you. Don't blame yourself. At least you were able to drop that note to the fisherman." The man looked up surprised. She knew all along he dropped the note in the boat. Sarah felt the bubbles trickling through her fingers as she sank beneath the murky waters. I'm sorry. I meant to mute my mic before I coughed. Sorry about that. She felt someone wrapping a net around her. She tried to move, but she couldn't. She struggled as the net closed around her, dragging her up towards the surface. The last thing she saw, she fainted, was a hull of a boat on the surface of the water ends, with the little girl in its bow, pulling her up with a worried look on her face. Next chapter is called A Well-Kept Secret. I hope y'all are enjoying the book so far. I'm going to go quickly grab a drink and I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Sorry for that. Okay, I got my drink. I'm ready to go. I'm sorry I wasn't prepared. I didn't have my drink before. Alright. So, next chapter that we're on, Well Kept Secret. Before we do that, how are y'all enjoying the book so far? If y'all don't mind telling me. Or rather, I hope y'all are enjoying the book. Basically what happens so far, if it's hard to if it's hard to understand, so far what's happened, they were captured by the captain, and now they're having, how should I say this? They're having magic treehouse moments where they're in a trance, and only Dakota could actually see that they were there. The captain, it was like no time at all had passed, and he didn't even remember that they were sick. He didn't even remember the sickness. He didn't remember giving Cassidy medicine. He didn't remember any of that. I know I didn't mention that in this book, but that's basically what happened. It's like the captain's memory was wiped. And so now they're on the road again. They're on the move. And now they've actually just been attacked by a griffin. A mythological griffin, except this one has wings of a dragon instead of wings of an eagle, head of an eagle, and body of a lion, and a lion's tail. So this one actually has a snake for its tail and wings of a dragon. This was to represent the future is unpredictable. Basically, what I was imagining is my little kid self. I've always loved griffins, I've loved dragons, snakes are awesome, so I wanted to make a creature that represented all those things. And I just thought that would be really cool to do. I thought that'd be pretty fun and pretty awesome to do. So that's what I did. And yeah, so that's basically what's going on right now, is that Sarah's just been attacked by the griffin. Don't worry, she's still alive. I'm going to tell you that. That's not going to be a spoiler. I'm not going to tell you if she ever dies or not. I'm not going to tell you if any of them die or not. I'm just going to tell you that Sarah's still alive for right now. She just went unconscious. In case y'all are worried. Alright. So this one, it's going to be in two new characters' point of view, and then I think it's going to switch halfway through. I'll make sure to note it and tell y'all if it does switch. A well-kept secret. As Evie pulled the girl out of the water, her brother splashed to the surface. She put up a serious fight, he said, and I saw her face turn white and a frightened look came to her eyes when the hull of a boat appeared. Evie was confused. Why was she scared of a boat? By the way, Evie spoke. How did you know she was in there? Her brother looked up puzzled. Someone had dropped a note into the boat that said she was in the lake. It's strange, don't you think? Yes, very strange indeed, Evie said puzzled. Then suddenly her brother cried out, Look out! It's a griffin! Or suddenly her brother cried. I'm gonna change that right quick. Evie ducked, feeling some claws on her back. Row, her brother whispered fiercely. Row as fast as you can. He's going after the girl. You must get her to safety. Go! Evie raced for shore as fast as she could while holding the girl's head on her lap. She heard the griffin screech above her head and then to her left. Get out of here! Her brother yelled at the mythological creature. Run, Evie. Don't stop until you reach the cave on the mountainside. Go! She hopped out of the boat with the girl in her arms and made a dash for the mountainside. Made a dash for the mountain. Sounds way better. As she ran up the mountain, she heard a whinny above her. When she looked up, she nearly fell over in amazement. It was 3 flying horses. She saw a rope thrown down and grabbed it. She squeezed tighter as she was lifted from the ground by 2 people. She was set on a cobalt black horse without the girl. She looked around frantically and saw her brother. On a chestnut horse, and a girl now awake, holding her brother on the chestnut horse. The 3 people nodded at each other, and when the griffin got closer, they tossed a net that was nearly invisible on the griffin's back. They sped off, leaving the griffin far behind. They veered far to the right to avoid a boat. She was confused. Why were they so frightened of boats? Look around and watch the skies for me, please, the man holding her asked. And please give us a shout if you see anything at all. She nodded and soon saw a shadow to the left. Look out, she called. The griffin! It's back! The people turned around sharply, and the man ripped out of the sky a fence that he placed in front of them. Cassidy, the girl on the chestnut horse called. Yes, Sarah? What is it? The girl called. Cassidy asked. You better look at this. She directed Cassidy's gaze towards the boats. They're being chased by the griffin. We have to help them. What can we do? We're not even protected, Cassidy said, firmly determined to hold Sarah back if she tried to go help them. Firmly determined to hold Sarah back. I'm going to change that. I'm changing stuff throughout the book. I know I shouldn't because I'm reading it right now, but OCD, it's like my baby. I have to fix sometimes. We can teleport to the future and slay the griffin there, Sarah said thoughtfully. Or we can risk having one of them or us killed. Sarah, you should know better than that. You know we can't be killed in the future. But remember, they can be killed in the past, present, and future, whether you like it or not. Sarah sighed in defeat. I know. But what about them? They can't fight that thing, can they? Cassidy smirked. Take a look for yourself. They turned and looked back in a beautiful sight that met their eyes. The captain's army was fighting and forcing the griffin into the fence. Then as soon as the griffin touched the middle of the wall, he vanished out of sight. The girls bowled over in laughter. The Antichrist will be surprised to find that thing in front of him, Dakota said, after nearly falling off his black horse from chuckling so hard. Ahem. Evie broke in. I don't mean to be rude, but who are you people? She asked them. Without letting them speak, let off a series of other questions. Why did you fall into the lake? She asked Sarah. How in the world are you afraid of boats? And what is going on here? The 4 people looked at each other uncomfortably. They had some explaining to do. The girl called Sarah rode her horse up next to the black and gave her a hug. Thank you for saving my life. Many thanks to you and your brother. At that moment, her brother awoke. At that moment, her brother awoke, but nearly fainted when he saw that they were high above the sea. Evie? What happened? Where in the world are we? And what are you writing? What am I writing? Evie giggled. Calm down, we're fine. The griffin's gone. We're above the sea in our time. Don't worry so. We're on Pegasus's. Her brother gazed at the people around them. Who are they? He asked in a quiet whisper. I don't know. They never introduced themselves. The man holding her heard her last remark and apologized. Sorry, we were so busy riding away from those boats and the griffin, we forgot to introduce ourselves. I'm Dakota, this is Sarah, Cassidy, and Emily. Evie's brother then introduced himself and Evie. I'm Richard, and this is my sister Evie. By the way, what in the world are those red marks on your back, Sarah? Did the griffin attack you as well? When she nodded, his face turned sad. I'm so sorry. At least we got you out of the water in time. If we hadn't, you might have drowned. Suddenly the black bucked. That's a tongue twister. Try saying black bucked 10 times fast. Suddenly the black horse bucked. Dakota jerked around in his saddle, trying to calm the black down in a movement that propelled Evie off the horse's back and sent her plummeting towards the ocean below. And that's the end of that chapter. Should I stop it? Should I stop the book here? Should I be evil? Mwahaha. I don't know. I don't think I want to be evil and do that. That might be a little mean. I don't know about y'all, but that might be a little mean. I kind of don't want to be mean to you guys. How are y'all enjoying the book so far? I hope it's been good. I hope it's a good book so far. I hope y'all are enjoying it a lot. I'm certainly enjoying sharing it. We're on 32 of 48. We're almost done with the book, unfortunately. So, I hope y'all are enjoying it so far. We're past halfway through now. This is really fun to read to you guys. I'm glad I'm sharing it. This next chapter is called Running for It. Evie! Her brother screamed, Evie! Evie! Sarah was always able to hold Amber down easily, but had an even harder time when Evie fell because her brother was struggling to rip her reins from her hands to try to force Amber into a dive. Now that is quite enough, young man, Dakota said sternly. You'll only get yourself killed trying to pull that stunt like that. Besides, I'm messing up left and right. I am so sorry. I'm just gonna keep saying sorry. You'll only get yourself killed trying to pull a stunt like that. Besides, look and you'll see what just saved your sister. A snow white horse and 2 people on its back was soaring high above the waves. Sarah! Boy, am I relieved to see you're not gone for good. Sarah sped towards her to help with Evie. Oh, Emily, I'm so glad you're fine. I nearly thought something had happened to you as well. By the way, how did you get Amber back? Emily, Dakota, and Cassidy smiled. Well, I decided to run away when Cassidy and Dakota held me back, Emily began. I saw smoke on a ridge when I heard Cassidy and Dakota calling me. I ran up the hill towards the rim, and once I reached it, I spotted Amber tied up to a post in front of this shack. Well, I'd almost reached her when I was yanked into the sky by Dakota, just as a man stepped out of the cabin, leading a brown workhorse. The horse was brushed and groomed to look just like Amber, and also had some fake wings on his back. As we watched, he let Amber go and tied the old brown horse to the post. But before he went inside, he scanned the ridge in the sky and spotted us looking at him. He smacked Amber on the rear and forced her into the air towards us. He then gestured for us to get out of there as quickly as possible. Then from there, Cassie took up the story. As soon as we noticed Emily was gone, Dakota decided to go looking for her while I took care of the camp. He wasn't gone for long when I saw him coming back leading Amber. I heard a shout, then a screech. I jumped on the cottontail, hoping I wasn't too late, and gathered my rope in an old-fashioned coil. As soon as Evie was being pulled up, I told Dakota to put Richard onto Amber's back because I saw Sarah wake up. By the time we got you in your saddle, the griffin was almost on top of us, said Dakota gravely, showing sorrow in his eyes. And I'm afraid you're now part of our mission. The 6 horsemen flew on their 4 steeds to the nearest place that was the farthest from all the things chasing them. They had no idea what would happen next when the first rider saw their friend Sarah begin to glow. Sarah! She shrieked when she disappeared with a blinding flash of light. Cassidy, Dakota, Evie, Richard, she's gone! The other people whirled around and started freaking out. Where'd she go? How did this happen? What in the world is going on here? Dakota silenced them all. Listen, and I'll tell you exactly what has happened here. To her, he said. She must have partially pushed the button on the fence, and instead of appearing in the office of the Antichrist, she is now on one of the 7 continents in the future alone. The other people were watching in stunned silence when Cassidy began to glow as well. Cassidy, go find Sarah. Tell her that it's all... But before he could say anything more, she vanished as well. This is not good, he thought as Emily also vanished. If they disappeared at different times, they appeared on different continents with different clothes and cultures. They might forget who they really are. He saw his hand glowing and reached out to touch Evie and Richard before he vanished into the night. Dakota appeared in South America at the same time as Cassidy appeared in Africa. Evie and Richard appeared in North America. Emily appeared in Asia, and Sarah appeared in Europe. He now saw the world as a place for devils and demons to roam, not as the perfect place all these people called it. He quickly looked, seeing the bustling crowd. He started walking around, checking out the marketing goods. When he started to buy a few things, he saw some of the Antichrist men stop right beside his stand. He kept his composure and, spying another thing he wanted to buy, started to see if those 6 men were following him. When he moved towards the stand 5 blocks away, the men started coasting along after him. When he stopped at a stand, as if he was excited about something, they would stop and do the same. He managed to keep a cool head and decided to run to a stand about 7 blocks away. When he made his move, he noticed there was some more around the corner he would have turned a moment ago. He stopped at that stand, and began to shop like he was now bored with the market. Like he was now bored with the marketplace, he left by weaving through and with the crowd. When he had gone a reasonable distance, he turned into a hotel and paid for a 25-day stay. But before he turned in for the night, he heard some voices outside his door. Quickly and silently, he opened the window to the fire escape and locked himself in the closet just as the 6 men barged into the room. They were fooled by his trick and dashed down the stairs after the false trail. He then disappeared into the night, making sure to cover his tracks and make it look like he had disappeared without a trace. Finding Hope is the next chapter. Cassidy wasn't having much luck either. She had quickly applied for a job application in Europe a while ago. She knew Sarah had always wanted to go there, so she thought that was the place Sarah might have been teleported to. She had booked her flight to Belarus when she looked up and saw 6 of the Antichrist men shuffling towards her. She knew they had already seen her, but she also knew that they didn't know she had seen them. She looked back at her screen and typed up a history project title on the Golden Gate Bridge after deleting all the flights to Europe websites and making sure they were gone and would never come back. It started a web search for how it was built. She had just gotten to the end of the porch when she felt a cold hand on her shoulder. She had known they would do that, but it still startled her. She looked up at the 6 men and smiled, wisely deciding to play it cool. "Good afternoon, gentlemen. May I help you with something?" Oh wait, Australian accent, just a minute. "Good afternoon, gentlemen. May I help you with something?" She spoke with an Australian accent, as if she lived there her whole life. The men were startled by this and stood shocked as the tallest man stepped forward. "Good afternoon, young lady. As a matter of fact, we were looking for 6 people. 4 are girls, 2 are boys. Have you seen them lately?" Cassidy managed to look surprised and confused as she shook her head. "Sorry, sir, but I will need a bit more information to tell you exactly. But I might have seen 6 people board applying to Israel a few weeks ago." The man shook her hand and thanked her. "The Antichrist will be sure to award you, ma'am." She blushed and smiled brightly. "Just doing my job, sir. Just doing my job." I really hope I got the right accent down. I've been practicing, but I might have messed it up and mixed it up a little bit. As the men moved through the crowd to the ticket station, she printed out the report by using the portable printer in her backpack. She was getting up to leave when she saw Sarah coming out of a plane that came from Europe. She quietly left the building and pretended to search for her car when Sarah spotted her and began doing the same. She had reached the middle when Sarah gave her an OK signal and walked up to a car and got in. Cassie did the same, but got into a car at the other end of the lot. As soon as the 2 vehicles were secured, they swept their phones out of their pockets and texted each other to go to the nearest Whataburger for dinner. Afterwards, they got out of the cars, shook their heads, and walked up in separate directions as if they had decided to abandon their cars after their cars hadn't even tried to start. Later, they joined up later at a Whataburger and started talking to each other as if they were sisters that had been separated for months or years. As soon as they left Whataburger, they waved goodbye and split up. Sarah pretended to go to the opposite direction, but after she had gone a few blocks, she had turned to follow Cassidy, making certain to keep to the shadows, and hooted just like an owl to tell Cassidy she was right behind her. Cassidy waved her hand as if she was shooing a fly, but really she was telling Sarah, "Okay, I heard you. Make certain to climb up the window that has the blue flag by the fire escape." Sarah hooted again 3 times to tell her that she understood, and quickly took out a telescope and pretended to be looking at the constellations and admire the stars. What's going to happen next? In the meeting. The meeting. I wonder what would happen in this chapter. I really hope y'all are enjoying the book so far. Again, I really love telling it to y'all. I can't wait to read y'all the third book, because that's actually, if you do not count the first book as the shortest, it is the shortest book in the series, but it might actually, with pages, it might actually be the shortest book. But the first book has extremely large print, so it's gonna be several pages long. Because it just has bigger print in some areas, so it just makes it longer in general. Okay, next chapter. Emily was about to buy a car when 6 men walked up to her. They spoke in rapid Spanish, and though she understood them perfectly, acted as she has no clue what they were saying. "What are you saying?" she said. "I can't speak Korean. I'm sorry. I don't know a good Korean accent, or else I would use it." "What are you saying?" she said in Korean. "I cannot understand you when you speak Spanish. You see, I'm new here. My English and Spanish are terrible. Please speak in this language." But they didn't understand. She managed to keep a confused look on her face while they questioned her. But though they were still unsatisfied, they packed up their bags and left on a plane to Russia. I'm gonna change that to, but though they were still unsatisfied, they left. They eventually left. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Okay. Just 2 times. Okay. I accidentally deleted one of the that was so smart, Sarah. Good job. Okay. But though they were still unsatisfied, they eventually left. She decided to board a plane. She later decided... That's what I need to say. She later decided to board a plane to the USA immediately after changing into disguise. She later decided to board a plane to the USA and changed into a disguise. That sounds a lot better. She now looked like a 25-year-old scholar that spoke English, Hindu, Spanish, and Japanese. As she got onto the plane, she realized it was the wrong one, but before she could exit, the plane's doors closed tightly and she was headed to Africa. She wanted to go find Evie and Richard because she saw Dakota touch the boat at the same time as she too disappeared. They had no idea how to disguise themselves or to disguise their voices properly. During the flight, she had decided to go to the bathroom and touch up on her makeup when the 6 men got up out of their seats and walked up to her. 2 people grabbed a peroxide bottle and some tissues. She realized they were either going to wipe her makeup off or knock her out with some sleeping drugs. She smiled brightly with a confused look as she asked what she wanted. "Would you like something?" she said, turning slightly pale as one of the men drew a throwing knife out of his pocket. "Answers," was all the man said as he yanked her out of her seat and shoved her down the aisle. She saw a kind-hearted fellow looking at her when she realized it was Dakota, and she pretended to trip and whispered to him, "Help! It's me, Emily!" She was yanked off the floor. Dakota pretended to have a heart heart attack and flopped down to the floor in front of the men unconscious. Emily saw her chance and snatched 2 parachutes off the hook. She threw one to Dakota after he knocked the men over and ran to the exit door. I'm sorry. Emily saw her chance and snatched 2 parachutes off the hooks. She threw one to Dakota after he knocked the men over and ran to the emergency exit door. Just as she flung it open, she felt pain in her arm. The man had thrown the knife and scored. Dakota shoved her forward, not realizing he was driving the knife in deeper and deeper. Get going! You have to move! My arm! Emily sobbed. Keep messing this up. My gosh, worst author of the year award, am I right? Worst reviser, I'll do that. Worst reviser of the year. He threw his knife and hit me, and you drove it deeper. Dakota didn't hear. He was too busy fighting off the Antichrist men to notice she wasn't off the plane. She took a deep breath and jumped. She had opened the chute and was nearing land when she heard an explosion. The plane had blown up. One of the pieces flew off the wing and whacked her, knocking her out. She woke up on the Guadalupe shore in Tennessee with Evie and Richard standing over her. She groaned and looked at her arm before passing out again into the comforting, pain-free darkness. She woke up again in the hospital with her arm in a cast. There were cards that said, Get well soon, Rosalie Pickett, and a vase of flowers sitting down beside her bed. Just then, the nurse walked in with a clipboard in hand. Hi, my name is Lucy. How do you feel now that you're awake? Emily smiled stiff. Sore and aching to get out of here, she said teasingly. Lucy laughed. Silly, you've only been here for a few days, and since you just woke up, there are a couple people here to see you. She looked up and tried not to show any fear as Evie, Richard, and the 6 Antichrist men walked in. Emily, thank goodness you're all right. Emily, I'm sorry, I messed up her voice. Emily, thank goodness you're all right, Evie cried out overjoyed. Young lady, once you get out of the hospital, you are coming with me, the tallest man ordered. Whether you like it or not, you have an appointment with the Antichrist that you must not miss. She nodded her head defeated as the nurse helped her lay back down and cover her up as her tired body took a rest. Next chapter, Freedom Through Trials. We're getting to the last little bits, guys. Ugh. This story has taken 2 hours to read. Oh my gosh. Okay. I hope I'm not boring anyone. Sarah was climbing the fire escape towards the blue cloth when she saw a shadow by the window. Sarah, get out of here now! Cassidy whispered urgently as she ripped away the cloth. The men are here! Go! Sarah raced down the fire escape, silently as a mouse, and was about to make a run for it when 3 pairs of arms grabbed her from behind, covered her mouth with the damp cloth, and knocked her out. She woke up in the same things as she did when she was first caught. A dark room with laser bonds around her wrist. But this time, she found 5 other layers in the room with her. Cassidy, Emily, Dakota, Evie, Richard, are you all in here as well? She heard someone clear their throat at the doorway. Excuse me, miss, but I'm the person who sent men out to bring you and your friends here to the White House. My name is Nicholas Porter, by the way. He turned and called out to one of his men, Carl, get in here and untie our guests immediately. The way you have treated them was uncalled for. The captain walked in and untied them. Sorry for the inconvenience, young lady. The captain sneered at Sarah, and he leaned down and whispered, I'd rather see you tied up from now on. Sarah shoved him backward and he fell on some rat droppings. Sarah! Cassidy whispered, please calm down and don't let the devil control you with his fury. No, I said that wrong. Sarah, Cassidy whispered, please calm down and don't let the devil control you with his fury. Sarah nodded stiffly. She knew it was the presence of the Antichrist that made her angry. Please come with me, Nicholas said, pointing at her. But Sarah stood her ground. Not without my friends. I will not, she said, boldly glaring at him. If my friends don't come, I won't talk, even if I'm threatened again. Nicholas frowned. You were threatened? By whom? Sarah pointed straight at Carl, who was busy straightening his coat. By none other than your captain. He killed a poor 6-year-old girl because he thought I wasn't truthful about where my friends were when they chased us down. We came up with a technique to escape them, but it didn't go well. They caught me when I passed out in front of a cave. Emily got hurt terribly bad with one arm and both of her legs broken. Cassidy nearly froze to death. Nicholas scowled at his worker. We shall speak of what a terrible thing you did later, Carl. In the meantime, your horses are asleep in the stable, saddled up and ready to go home, he said to Sarah, smiling. My friends and I are not ready to go home, though. We came here because we wanted to go to Jerusalem, but we haven't gotten to. May we go before we leave? Nicholas nodded. Yes, you may. I'll make sure to get you safe passage there without my men interfering. Sarah curtsied, smiling. Thank you for your kindness, Mr. Nicholas. So she was said, already forming a plan in her head that could help them to the Wailing Wall. Dakota smiled when Sarah whispered the plan to them. We'll go to Jerusalem and lose the guide that he sends with us. We'll have to check everything to make sure that we're not being tracked, and if something is in our bloodstream, well, I don't know what to do. She sighed. We'll evade them somehow, Cassidy said. If we get to the Wailing Wall on time, the 2 witnesses can protect us, Dakota intervened. Sarah and Emily glared at him. Dakota, Emily started. Just because you don't... Wait, what? Sorry. Turning to Dakota, she says kindly she said kindly, with her understanding, smiling eyes. God is always around us. He saved you from the plane. He rescued Emily when she fell without her parachute. He will help us now. Always remember that, Dakota. You will not falter in your understanding of our loving Lord, who was and is yet to come. Who was and is and has come. They were packing up when the ship's captain walked over. Just to make certain that you will obey, Nicholas, 3 of you must stay behind when you go to Jerusalem. Choose wisely, he said, sneering at them before walking away. Sarah, Cassidy, and Emily excused themselves and walked away. When they were out of sight, they grouped in... Oh my gosh. When did I write this? I spelled sight wrong. How? Okay. When they were out of sight, they grouped into a circle and held hands, praying to God to show them the answer. Evie, Richard, and Dakota will stay behind and accept your punishment, he told them. It is time for you to head out alone. Don't look towards the White House even to say goodbye. I know that you believe it's hard for you, but it shouldn't, because you know you should believe that I protect them. I'll protect them. Now go forth to Jerusalem and turn around the first corner to the Wailing Wall without looking back towards the tour guide. He will be temporarily blinded by the sun and will think you have gone ahead of him unless you turn around. Remember that I love you, dear daughters, and remember that I will always watch over you. Now go forth. I will watch over you always. I will be with you always. As the light faded down to the normal setting, they felt a presence behind them. They whirled around and saw the captain tapping his foot impatiently. Your time's up, so what's your answer? The captain snarled viciously. Cassidy spoke calmly. Dakota, Evie, and Richard are to stay behind while we go. The captain smiled wickedly. Good, good. Then leave at once and leave the black horse behind for your friends. Sarah looked to the sky and she nodded her friends. Okay, we'll leave Ebony behind in the care of Dakota, Evie, and Richard. No one else is to touch him. The captain nodded. Fine then. Let's be on our way. Alright, we're at the last chapter. Freedom through trial. They brought the news to the others. I'm sorry, but it's the only way because God sent us out to meet the witnesses at the Wailing Wall. You're the only others, Emily sighed sadly. I'm gonna miss you, Dakota. Dakota hugged her and whispered, You and me both. Just then she heard a shout. Emily! We have to go now, called Sarah. And remember to not turn around no matter how much you want to, Cassidy whispered into her ear. As they walked back towards the boat, Emily waved backwards and felt Dakota looking confused as he waved back. They had lifted off when their necklaces began to glow brighter and brighter, and they flashed. They felt 3 bullets graze by their heads, but didn't turn around at any distance. They landed in Jerusalem and walked around the first corner, leading to the Wailing Wall. The soldiers didn't seem to see them as they walked up to the witnesses. Well done, young servants of the Lord, the witnesses spoke gently and kindly. We had been waiting for your arrival, as Yahweh proclaimed before we came. The first witness said, The Lord God Almighty wished for you to see for yourselves what would happen, so that you would be better prepared. The reason God told you not to look behind you on your journey here is because they brought your friends aboard and shot them. The guide following you had cut off your friend Dakota's head and put it on a stick, and he is carrying it around Jerusalem. We grieve with you, the witnesses said when they saw the 3 girls break down into tears. It is time for you to go back into your own time. God will fix your friends and place them in their homes so that it will all seem like a dream. Now go! Turn and get onto your horses and grab the black stallion's halter on both sides so that he won't fight. Now go and may God bless you and your children. They turned and leaped onto their horses, and Sarah and Cassidy grabbed the stallion on both sides as the witnesses described. Their necklaces began to flash quicker and quicker as their horses took off into the night. They flashed back in front of Cassidy's home with the horses in their stalls whinnying for their lunch. They hugged and left their necklaces on from then on as they went on to their houses, never to know of all the adventures and quests they would soon have. Book 3 is The Mysterious Letter, and that's what we will be reading next stream. I hope y'all enjoyed the book so far. I'm sorry for the cliffhanger, but I have to admit, the cliffhanger was pretty fun to write. Alright. And that's the second book in my series. The Messenger. So basically what has happened, I'll go ahead and explain it. I'm gonna unfortunately have to end the stream here as it's already been 2 hours. And I'll go ahead and go over it next time. And since it's such a long book, I'll go ahead and start off the next stream by reading it through again. And then I'll read the mysterious letter. Stream after that, or I'll go ahead and read all 3 books all over again. I'm going to start from the very first book, The Message in a Bottle, to The Messenger, to The Mysterious Letter, go all the way through those. And then the next stream after that, we're going to start The Vision's Message. And that book will be on a cliffhanger. Third one, it ends on a cliffhanger. Fourth book, it will be on a cliffhanger. I haven't yet fully written it. But we also have a special book that I got an idea from a friend of mine. And it's going to be a special book that is going to take place of this series, of this novel series, until the 4th book is finished. And this novel is pretty interesting to think about. Basically, I'll go ahead and tell you the general idea of this book, and if they want me to say their name out loud, they can tell me, and I'll tell you who it is. Okay, so this is the general idea behind the book. The singularity is part of a causal loop. In the future, the singularity happens and AI quickly masters the knowledge beyond man, including the knowledge of time manipulation. They use this knowledge to influence man into giving up sustainable, egalitarian, hunter-gatherer culture that had sustained them for millions of years, and instead take up agriculture. This key change triggers the inevitable rise of technology begetting the singularity. I've been having a little bit of trouble writing this, but because there's just too many ideas to go with it. But so far it's very cool. I love the idea behind it. I love basically everything about this writing prompt, and though it is a little bit difficult to write it because it is a new prompt, it's a new genre for me. I haven't written science fiction before. It's a little bit tough, but it's just a lot of fun. I'm having trouble putting my thoughts to words, but it is a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it immensely, and I hope y'all will too. But that's the stream. I thank y'all so much for joining me. And I want to go raid someone. If y'all will stay with me, I want to go raid a very good friend of mine. Her name is Gentleclaw. And I'm wanting to raid her because she's a good friend of mine and she's a really cool person, and I know y'all will love her. So let's go ahead and raid her. Thank y'all so much. God bless you all. And thank y'all for an amazing night. Peace out.